As you probably already know, Porsche recently facelifted their 992 generation 911. And today we're going to be taking this brand new 992.2 generation base Carrera out for a drive. To be honest, they haven't made too many visual or mechanical changes or updates to this 0.2, but thankfully the 0.1 was already a very, very good car. Before options, one of these will set you back £99,800, but this particular press car has had a few boxes ticked and is closer to 125 grand. I've always recommended keeping your options light on the base Carrera. You're buying this because it's an entry-level 911 and it's a brilliant sports car. Spending 25 grand on optional extras really doesn't make it any better. Unlike the new GTS, which is now a hybrid, and I will be getting my hands on one of those very soon, this base Carrera retains the same 3-litre flat six twin turbo. Although they have changed those turbos, they're now the bigger turbos out of the GTS. Power and torque figures are basically the same, 394 horsepower, 450 newton meters of torque. All of that power and torque runs through Porsche's 8-speed PDK gearbox and is fed to the ground via the rear axle alone. Providing it has the Sport Chrono Pack, which this particular press car has, it will do a claimed 0 to 62 in 3.9 seconds. Yes, that's right, the least powerful 911 on sale today will cover the 0 to 62 sprint in under 4 seconds. It will also go onto a top speed of 183 miles an hour. Let's get this out on the road. Inside, there have been a couple of small changes. Firstly, we now have a starter button. The pre-facelift car had what I would call a starter tab. It kind of replicated a key. So you reach down there and you turned it just like you would with a key in older 911s or older cars in general. I really like that and I really miss it. I especially miss it because the actual starter button itself, in terms of materials and finish, well, just looks a little bit low rent and definitely looks out of place in something costing well over £100,000. I wish they'd at least made it brushed aluminium or something a bit nicer. And the next update is the instrument cluster. They've taken away the wonderful analog rev counter that used to be surrounded by an otherwise digital dashboard. It's now all digital, and although it works really well and is even more configurable, there's so many different layouts on here and you can bring up just about everything you need and want, I do miss that analog rev counter. It was a really nice detail and it certainly made the cockpit feel very premium whilst still retaining some of the sort of older 911 heritage. This new layout, well, it's very, very similar to the dashboard that you get in the Taycan and pretty much all modern day Porsches, and that's not a bad thing because they do a very good job of that, but I do wish, like the starter tab, that they just left the analog rev counter in there, and I think I'm not the only one that misses both of those. Other than those two updates, I don't really have anything else negative to say about this car, and that's because it's very, very similar to the car and model that it replaces, and I absolutely love the base 911. I've always said it's arguably the best 911 if you want a fast road car. Sure, if you're taking this out on track, which I will be doing with the Michelin partnership car very soon, I will discover that the 400 horsepower that feels very quick on the road maybe feels a bit less powerful once you get above 100 miles an hour. And maybe the smaller brakes, well, they might start to struggle. But I'll find all that out very soon. But on the road, this thing is just brilliant. It really is. To put things into perspective, yesterday I was in Spain with BMW Motorrad UK. I was riding an M1000R, which is a 210 horsepower motorbike that weighs less than 200 kilos. It's an absolute rocket ship and faster than pretty much any car on this planet. So I thought when I picked this up from the airport last night and drove home, it might feel a bit slow and underwhelming compared to that motorbike. And although of course in performance terms it's nowhere near as fast, it still gave me plenty of thrills. It's still plenty fast enough. Well, we know 0 to 62, 3.9 seconds. I've tested it off camera. It's actually about 3.7 seconds. In fact, let's just do a little launch here. Come to a little stop. Turn the traction off. Left foot down on the brake, right foot on the accelerator. Here we go. Oh, the traction! Oh, onto the rev limiter. I thought it was going to change gear for me. But that's the beauty of this being a press car and not being the brand new Michelin car that isn't running at all. So yeah, if you're looking at buying one of these and you're in any doubt about those modest power and torque figures, don't be. It is plenty fast enough for the public road here in the UK, and I'm sure anywhere else. It would be a fantastic car to go and do a road tour in, and it never feels like it's lacking in any power or torque. While we're on that subject, let's just quickly talk about those larger GTS turbos. I haven't been in a 992.1 base Carrera for probably 2 years, so it's very hard for me to honestly compare the cars back to back. But this does feel like it picks up a bit better. And although they say it doesn't really have any more power and torque, it definitely feels to me, off my old muscle memory, that it has a bit more torque. There's no way that is 450 Newton meters. It's just not. We're going uphill, 2,000 RPM at 30 miles an hour, put my foot down. The way it picks up is unreal. The 8-speed PDK gearbox, super quick, super smooth, and in 8th gear on the motorway at 70 miles an hour, it's doing about 1,400 RPM. So it's extremely frugal. You get close to 40 miles to the gallon in this car at 70 miles an hour. So you've got a big range, and it's very, very relaxed in terms of the engine when you're doing long motorway jaunts, and that's really helpful and really handy. It's really, really loud in here. Once you get above 45, 50 miles an hour on coarse tarmac, which we have a lot of in the UK, well, it is really loud, and once again begs the question as to why you need a Burmeister sound system, because it doesn't matter what sound system you've got, there's so much drone going on in this cabin. This car also has the optional, I think they call it the acoustic glass, so essentially the double glazing, which should in turn cut out some of that sound, but it really doesn't seem to have. It just does get a little bit tiring when you're sitting at 70, 75 miles an hour. But on that subject, what I have noticed with the Michelin partnership car and this car, which are essentially exactly the same cars, okay, the Michelin car has an aero kit on it, which I'm not a big fan of, and it has some aero wheels, which I'm also not a big fan of. These wheels are beautiful in comparison. What I have noticed is the Michelin tyre that's on the Michelin car produces a lot less tyre roll. It also gives you a slightly better ride. In terms of feel, well, they both feel pretty similar. This has a really nice crisp turn in terms of grip in dry, warm weather. They both feel pretty similar, but I haven't really pushed the Michelin car. But if you're after a tyre that makes less tyre roar, less cabin noise in your 992.1 or 992.2, then get the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, the N-Mark tyre that is homologated for the 992. I did talk about that tyre a lot 2 years ago when they launched it with the base yellow car that Patrick and I took down to France. I remember jumping in that and thinking, wow, it's so much quieter, and I'm sure that would make a big difference if you're living with one of these and using it as a daily. 4 days ago, when I picked this car up from Porsche GB, I actually put a post on my Instagram page asking my audience for their questions around this car and what they wanted me to cover in this video. So keep an eye out for more posts like that in the future. If I remember to do it, it's quite a good idea, because sometimes I run out of things to talk about, especially as I have another one of these at home at the moment, and I want to cover a lot of stuff over the next few months with that car. So I'm going to go through some of those comments. I say some of those comments because, well, that post has had exactly 100 comments and replies. So thanks so much to everyone for those. We certainly can't cover 100, but we'll try and get through a couple. First one is from my good friends at Motec Performance, and they've asked, is it a better car than the base BMW M4 Competition? Now, I had to research what an M4 Competition costs us today, and actually it's £91,300 base price, which is insane. That's a lot of money, and actually makes it only inverted commas 9,000-ish pounds, or £8,500 less than this car in base form. But, and there is a big but there, the M4 Competition comes with a lot more standard equipment, and you're far more likely to get support and discount on the M4 than you are on the 911. Although there have been a couple of discounts at the beginning of the year on this car, they seem to have disappeared now as the weather's got better and people are going out and buying cars again. So realistically, there's probably more like a £20,000 gap between the two cars. Putting that aside, well, let's start with the M4 Competition, its strong points. The LCI, which launched about this time last year, now has 530 horsepower. It is undoubtedly quicker than this car. It will do the 0-60 sprint in around 3 seconds flat. Also, because it has the MX drive system, so it's going to be a better all year round, all weather car. Saying that, the 911 somehow finds so much grip through those massive rear tyres, even in the rain, and with 400 odd horsepower you're not going to struggle too much. In terms of straight line pace and performance and all round grip, I'd give it to the M4 Competition. In terms of handling, although the M4 has a mighty front axle, and if you're looking at lap times it would definitely be quicker, at least in my head, extra power, more front end grip, the 911 definitely feels more playful. I feel more connected to the chassis, and most importantly to me, and I'm sure many people buying a sports car, well, the electronic steering rack has a lot more feel compared to BMWs. Also, what I love about Porsches in general is they give their wheels a nice thin rim. We haven't got a big balloon. I'm not holding a bunch of marshmallows. I don't understand BMW M's logic with their big, overweight, fat rim steering wheels. They are terrible. Stop doing it. It really frustrates me. I don't know many people that can drive that actually like that application. Two very different offerings. Also, M4 Competition, you've got 4 seats that you can kind of use, whereas in this car, well, it's a 2+2. While we're on that, for the first time with this latest facelifted generation, you can actually option out the rear seats, so you can have them in or out. And off memory, when I configured a 911 recently at Porsche Reading, if you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link to it up here. It's worth watching if you're looking at one of these. I think stock, or by default, they come without the rear seats, so you have to option them in, but it's a no-cost option. So the M4, definitely a more practical car. It has a much bigger boot as well. A quick one from Bushy56. He's asked me what the difference is between this base Carrera, the Carrera S, and the Carrera GTS. Simple answer to that is I haven't tried the S or the GTS. Stay tuned, because I'm getting a GTS very soon, and I'll be able to at least give you some kind of comparison between the base and that car. Good friend and fellow YouTuber Carmad Dad has asked me why you would consider purchasing one of these if you've got a 992.1 base Carrera. And the short answer is you probably wouldn't consider that, because there's no major changes, as we talked about already, and in many ways you lose some of those really nice features like that analog rev counter and the little tab down there. I promise that's the last time I go on about those. But I think Porsche have to update and change and evolve their models like everyone else does. And I think this car is still pitched at maybe the new 911 customer, someone who's looking at getting in one for the first time. They still needed to offer the base 911. It's substantially cheaper than the GTS, about 25 or 30,000 pounds cheaper than the GTS. It's about 20 grand cheaper than the S. So it still has a place in the market, still has a position. It's still definitely worth considering, and arguably probably still the best sports car that Porsche make for the public road. Although the new T has just been launched, and that is a manual only, off the top of my head, a new 6-speed manual with a beautiful little wooden gear knob that, to me at least, harps back to the wonderful Carrera GT. It's such a nice car, and that car starts at £111,000 here in the UK, so it's about 10% more expensive than this. That's definitely going to be a car that I can't wait to drive, and I'm sure is going to be, once again, all the sports car that 99% of people are ever going to need or want. As the light completely fades and it's actually starting to rain, I'm going to run through one more question that I got from Paul CCSS. He's asked, is less more, especially if it was your money? And I believe less is more in the 911 range. I love the base Carrera, always have done. The 997, the 991, and the 992.1 or this 0.2. It really is all the car you ever need. I get to drive a lot of powerful cars, a lot of powerful motorbikes these days as well, and not once have I gotten this and thought, oh, I wish it had an extra 100 horsepower, because it goes so well. It really does. And it's so rewarding, and unlike the GTS or the Turbo or even the M4 competition, because we've been talking about that car, you put your foot down in those cars for more than a couple of seconds, you're doing silly speeds, which isn't ideal on the public road. Whereas in this, you know, you can go through a couple of gears and still be relatively close to the speed limit, and therefore have legal fun in your 911. I actually forgot to say this car has an optional sunroof, which I might open because we're bringing a bit more light. Hopefully it won't completely ruin the sound. You wouldn't know that it has a sunroof because 992s that I've seen with sunroofs are usually glass and quite obvious, but on the outside of this it's silver, so that must be a configurable option. You could do so many things with the 911, even the base model, and I really love that about Porsches. Sure, you can pay or spend way too much money on your options, as we talked about earlier on in the intro, but the flip side of that is you can really configure your 911 to be yours, even if you are spending only £10,000 on options, a bit like my ideal car that I built with Anthony at Porsche Reading. Make sure once again that you check that video out. It's right at the end, the car that I spec. Let's just have a little bit of fun on this section of road here. A few little twisties. Ah, the gearbox is just brilliant. Gives me gears all the time. Doesn't hesitate. Even if it means it's gonna change down onto the limiter, just give it to me. Such a good gearbox, really, really is. You can only get the 8-speed PDK with the base Carrera. Like I said a minute ago, if you want a manual, then get a T. I mean, first world problems. Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I've kept it basic, and I haven't had time to do any sexy flybys because the half day I had put aside to do that, well, it rained. So I unfortunately ran out of time, and as you can see, I'm running out of light now because I'm about to drop this back to Porsche GB and pick up their GTS. So keep an eye out for that video coming very, very soon. I appreciate the love and support, all of the new subs that I've seen coming in. I'm gaining about 3,000 subs a month at the moment, which is wonderful news. I really appreciate that. So hi to anyone that's new, and thanks to anyone that's old, and I will see you at another video very, very soon. Cheers.